Hey guys, today we're going to go over assessing sources, and I'm going to show you kind of different questions to ask when looking at a source to kind of decide whether or not to use it in any of your papers. I think it's a good idea to learn how to assess sources because you can kind of figure out what's going to be the best way to explain your topic using pieces of evidence from these sources. And yeah, so here we go. So here we just have an overview of how to assess a source, and it's got it broken up into three different categories. So we can either assess a source for its credibility, its accessibility and interest level, or its relevance and richness. And so having the ability to assess a source is ideal because you're going to use a lot of sources throughout any kind of research paper you do or any kind of evidence-based kind of work you're handing in. You need to be able to determine all three of these things in order to help form the best essay or project. Okay, so here we have our first look at an outline for assessing a source, and the first thing you can assess it for is credibility. And so the questions you can ask are divided up into four different kind of parts: the publisher, the date, the author, and the type. And all this kind of culminates into determining the actual credibility of a source. So focusing on the publisher portion, we should ask, what is the publisher's relationship to the topic area? What economic stake might the publisher have in the topic area? And what political stake might the publisher have in the topic area? So this is basically just focusing on how the publisher, if they have the right credentials, if they're a well-known group, and if they may have had any ulterior motives when looking at this source and kind of maybe swaying the results that it has in it for their own benefit. And yeah, moving on towards the date portion of assessing a source's credibility, we question, when was the text first published, how current is the information on the topic, and how does the publishing date relate to the history of the topic. So this is basically just asking, is the information presented in this source credible for like the modern era? So has the information in this source been decredited later on? Has the publishing group been kind of condemned for improperly presenting evidence and stuff like this? So basically just focusing on the date as to whether or not this source can be seen as relatable to your current more modern topic. Moving towards the author portion, we ask, what are the author's qualifications / credentials relative to the topic area? What is the author's personal relationship to the topic area? And what economic and political stakes might the author have in the topic area? So here we're just kind of asking, well, is the author kind of well known enough? Does he have the schooling and the degrees to back up what he's stating? What is his personal relationship? We can look at how this author kind of personally feels about the topic, if it possibly has some swayed results because he kind of is blinded by his own personal relationship to it. And then looking at economic and political stakes, we can see, did the author kind of present his data to help benefit him getting more research grants or something like that. As for the type, we question what type of text it is. Is it explanatory, informational article? Is it research study? Is it an essay? Is it an argument? And then we can also ask, what is the purpose of the text? So here we're just trying to decide what kind of category does this actual source fall into? Is it more of a research paper, or is it more argumentative with more opinion-based stuff? And so we're also asking, what is the purpose of it? So why did the author make this text, and is it a worthwhile resource? The next thing we can assess a source for is its accessibility and interest level. And so when we're looking at the accessibility as a reader, we're questioning if I am able to read and comprehend the text easily. So how well is it written? Is it too confusing for a reader to understand? The next question is, how do the text structure and formatting either help or hinder me in reading it? So is this a well-structured resource, or is it difficult to understand and it's going to require some work for using in your papers? Do I have adequate background knowledge to understand the terminology? This is just saying, do you have your own general understanding of what this topic is presenting so that you can kind of further explain information that the initial author is trying to relate? Moving to the next section for interest level, we're asking, does the text present ideas or information that I find interesting? So for any kind of source you're choosing, It's best to have some interest level in it because it'll help you kind of present your own opinions with kind of more forcefulness, and it's obviously more fun to be interested in a source. Which of the inquiry paths will the text provide information for? That's just looking back on the different kind of information that the text is going to provide you with, and if it's going to be more kind of entertaining for your readers to see. Which inquiry questions does the text help me answer and how? So just looking back on inquiry questions that we have listed, which ones does it answer and how does it answer them? And here we have the last kind of categories we can assess a source for, and that is relevance and richness. So looking at the relevance to the topic and purpose portion of this outline, we're asking ourselves, what information does the text provide on the topic? How might the text help me accomplish the purpose for my research? And does the text provide accurate information? So this is basically just asking, what is the resource providing you with? And how can I relate this kind of information towards my overall paper that I'm writing? Also looking at the relevance, we're also kind of examining how accurate this information is. Moving on to, we're asking ourselves, how is the text related to the specific area I am investigating? So we're just trying to understand how relevant that information is to your kind of broad topic. Which my paths of inquiry might the text provide information for? So if you're focusing on a certain kind of branch of research, or like how something's defined, where did it originate, something like that, you should kind of pick a source that's more relevant to that. Which inquiry questions might the text help me address and how? So you can just pose simple inquiry questions like what major aspects of something, what are the causes of something, and then you can figure out using this source how it can answer them. Moving on to the scope and richness, we ask how long is the text and what is the scope of the topic areas it addresses. So we're just looking at how lengthy is the text you have, and then is it looking at a broad general sense of certain ideas, or is it looking at it with a more specific approach? The next question is, how extensive and supported is the information it provides? So is it a lengthy kind of journal with a lot of evidence and chart backing up all the information that the author is trying to prove? And then the next question is, how does the information in the text relate to other texts? So is this a common trend seen throughout research papers, or is it just this one author who is able to find this? And if so, is it due to error, or is everyone else not looking at it the way he is? All right, guys, so that's what I have for you on assessing sources. I think it's pretty useful to learn this kind of stuff. I would say whenever you have any kind of topic whatsoever that you need to have research evidence for, I would go back to these questions and ask if it kind of fits the criteria. And yeah, so see you next video.